Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the TBM crew. Today, I'm so happy to be here with Jeff Thomson, the author of Guardians of the Apocalypse. How are you, Jeff?
Lovely.
So happy to have you here. Tell me a bit about you and your work.
Well, I've been writing pretty much my entire life.
Wow,
Uh,
okay.
didn't publish until 2018, but that's because I tried to go through the traditional route. That's such a soul-sucking process
Yeah.
that I finally said, hell with it, and published on Amazon, and haven't regretted it for a moment since.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Mhm.
And where are your series? Are they the environment is in this age?
Yes, it's happening present day.
Tell me about a bit about your books.
The Guardians of the Apocalypse is essentially um, zombies versus the Coast Guard in Hawaii.
Okay. And how many books
I'm
are
working on
there?
the ninth one now.
Wow, that's a lot. How is your writing process? Because you have
Uh,
a lot of expertise on it then.
yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I edit as I go.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll sit down, and I'll start writing, and I'll stop, and I'll kind of look it over, and I'll scratch my head,
Yeah.
maybe research something, and then I'll write a little bit more, and I'll look it over and scratch my head. Um, I just kind of feel my way through it, so that
Mhm.
by the time I send it to my editor, which I send 5 chapters
Yes.
at a time to
Uh-huh.
my editor,
Okay.
um, by the time I send it to her, it's pretty clean.
Okay.
It's pretty much ready to go. I mean, it could use a polish and
Mm-hmm.
little tweaks here and there, but it's pretty much done when I send it to her.
Yeah. And
So
when
it's
Mhm.
not like I just sit down and then hand it off. So that's just my way of doing
And when you start writing, when you get the
it. Mhm,
idea for a book,
mhm.
do you already know how it's going to be, how it's going to end, or do you just go as you move on in the book?
Well, when I start writing, I know where it begins
Mm-hmm.
and I know where it ends.
Okay.
The rest of it, it just something magic happens.
Stuff happens.
Well, I mean, there is a logical progression to these things.
Yeah.
Stories work a certain way, and if you don't follow some kind of logical progression,
Mm-hmm.
it falls apart.
Yeah.
So if you know where it begins and you know where it ends, okay, you're here. You need to go through these steps to get here.
Yes.
So you just kind of write to the steps and you kind of put it together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Well, but then that means that you have a very creative mind because you make it sound so easy, but it's not.
Well, I mean, there are certain things that everybody does that come naturally to them.
Uh-huh.
I mean, auto mechanics or cooking or whatever.
Yes.
Everybody has these things. For me, it's always been writing. So it's part of who I am.
Hmm.
So it sounds easy, but it really it's I mean, there's a lot of work involved.
Exactly. That's what I meant. And have the events in your life influenced your books? Are you mirrored in your books somehow?
Well, I spent 14 years in the Coast Guard,
Mm-hmm.
two of which was in Hawaii. So I know I know the service, I know the locale,
Yeah.
and I use a lot of the people that I serve with as characters in the book. So I
Mm-hmm.
know them.
Yeah.
So that works. And then the other stuff I've done, I've kept the stuff that I'm familiar with or that I've researched.
Yes. And are you influenced by any other author?
Um, Essentially three of them. Stephen King,
Yeah.
who's is astounding at creating characters that you care about, usually right before he completely wrecks their world. um, yeah. Then there's Kurt Vonnegut, who has such a unique way of making us laugh at ourselves. Because human beings are pretty funny.
Yeah.
If you look at them the right way.
Yes.
And the third is Raymond Chandler, who was an old pulp fiction author back in like the 30s. And he created think of half a dozen different Humphrey Bogart movies. That's Raymond Chandler. And the way he used language was just rapid fire, no BS.
Yeah.
Just straight.
Yeah. Wow.
And those are the three that influenced me.
And do you have any favorite characters of yours?
Well, Jonesy, the main character in the Guardians of the Apocalypse, yeah, I really like him.
Yes.
So, like I said, I made a number of the characters in those books after people I knew. So
of course.
I liked them. So yeah.
And will you take any of your maybe secondary or side characters, like to build a spin-off or another kind of series, like linked to this one? Have you thought about that?
In the zombie series, no, I don't think so. Okay. I might, but I don't have any plans to do that. I have a post-apocalyptic series that I'm going to take one of the characters and spin off, but that's later. That's a couple of years down the road.
And do you have any other book or story or material that is out of the zombie world? Like Haunted?
Well, I have this, Demon's Fog, which is a standalone horror story. I have a book called Scream Bloody Cheerleader, which is a spoof of 80s slasher movies.
Okay.
I have two, and this summer it'll be three of the post-apocalyptic series. I have a book called The Collector I wrote with 5 other authors in one of the Facebook groups. Another one called Dark Incubus that I co-wrote with another person. And I've been in one of the horror anthologies that are out there. I'm just about done with another story that's going to go into another one.
And what do you enjoy writing the most? What is the kind of horror that you really, really enjoy?
Well, there isn't one particular type. It's just the most important part of any story. It doesn't matter what the genre is.
Yes.
But the most important part of any story is the people in it.
Okay.
So if there's an idea, there are interesting characters in it, and it's an interesting story that people can, well, be entertained by. Because let's face it, we are in the entertainment industry.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And if we're not entertaining, we're not doing our job. So
yeah.
That's
Yes. What do you think the audience embraces better? The kind of bloody horror, the kind of maybe traditional, kind of cheesy, so to speak, horror, or maybe psychological, demonic? What do you think?
It varies. It just depends on the person. Because now, mind you, I run the Asylum of Fear Facebook group, and there are some really twisted people in that group. and I've been in the zombie genre for almost 5 years now, and there are some really twisted people in that group. So Well, for example, the collective that we co-read with a
Yes.
bunch of us from one group. It was myself and Scott Baker
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah, see.
four other writers who one of them had a book published and the other three had nothing published.
Mm-hmm.
And the three who had nothing published, oh man, they came up with some really twisted stuff. I couldn't believe it. But there's that, and there's, a good psychological horror like The Silence of the Lambs.
Yes, yeah.
Great book,
Mm.
great book, and a great movie. It just, it, any good story.
Mhm.
Ultimately that's what it is. Doesn't matter. I mean, my favorite book of all time is To
Yes.
Kill a Mockingbird,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't remotely horror,
Yeah.
but it's a great book.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
something my father always said,
Hmm.
and it's always stuck with me: good is good.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where it comes from. If it's good, it's good.
Yeah, exactly. I completely
So,
agree. Yes. Well, sometimes horror, as you say, each person is different. And sometimes there's something that clicks in your mind, something you
mhm,
hear, something you read, anything or
mhm,
something you see that suddenly just like when you're alone at home and suddenly you hear a noise and you realize you're alone and you start remembering all these scenes you've watched and you
mhm.
stop breathing to see if that noise was you, you know? So that's just a kind of tiny horror in your mind. You just
Mhm,
made it up. So it really depends on each mind. And I
mhm,
think you authors have a big challenge and then to make readers click that.
mhm.
Which one of your books or work do you think has been better embraced by your readers? What do you think people
Uh,
love the most about your writing?
well, the zombie series has been the most successful.
People love
Um,
zombies, right?
yes, I keep hearing. Um, well, for example, I went to the 20 books to 50K
Uh-huh.
convention in Vegas last year,
Okay, oh,
and,
how
and they
cool.
had a big post-apocalyptic panel, and
Mm-hmm.
the people on that panel were saying that zombie fiction is dead, and they couldn't
Yeah.
be more wrong. It isn't showing any signs of slowing down.
Hmm.
People love zombies.
They love them.
They just
They
love them.
absolutely love them. Yes, yes, absolutely. I am. It had been a long time since I read anything about zombies because they give me a lot of nightmares. I mean, I think zombies. Yeah, I mean, for example, the horror that scares me, so to speak, the most is the kind of psychological, demonic horror. I think demons are completely they freak me out, but
Mhm.
zombies
Well,
give
like
me.
the original Omen,
Yeah,
the original The Omen. Oh, that's such a good movie, but it's so
exactly.
scary.
So scary. And but
Hmm.
but zombies give me nightmares. If I watch a zombie movie, I will
Hmm.
that night. I'm certain I will have nightmares. I in my dreams I will run all night with before zombies, you know? So it's there's
Well, that's why
something
I
about
like
that.
slow zombies. That's why I like slow zombies. They're easier to get away from.
Yes, and I think it's something maybe the stories about zombies um that we can some I don't know how to say we can feel related to it in the sense that you can imagine that happening because
Mhm.
those stories happen to regular people. And one thing we were talking about with Ricky Flip the other day was
Mhm.
that here in Europe, we don't have weapons. We can't
Right.
have any kind of weapon. It's
Mhm.
completely forbidden, completely, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So if you have, because if you like shooting and you go to these places that you go to do that, because here it's very, no one that it's just for
Right.
the army and the police agents and all of that.
Mhm.
But if you happen to have a gun and you need to move from A to B, you need to call the police and warn them. I have this gun and I'm going to go from A to B. You know, I mean, it's really,
Mhm.
really controlled in here. So he
Okay.
was saying, what? Because Americans are like super protected and super loaded with weapons, but
Mhm.
here we have nothing. I have a
Mhm.
bottle. That's all I would have to fight zombies. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. He said, the way he described it to me was, I have cutlery, and that's about it.
yes. So it's interesting also the idea of I mean, for a writer, for a horror creator on zombies, what happens if an apocalypse like that breaks loose
Mhm.
in your area and you really have nothing, absolutely nothing?
Oh, I love that. I've read his first book,
Yes,
Hellspawn. I loved it.
yes.
I loved it. Great book.
Hmm. I think I don't know, it's something when I watch zombie movies or I read them, I really think of that. Like you, sometimes I stop reading and think, I'm dead. You know, like I would just let me
Okay.
bite me and join the party because
Why not? What's a little cannibalism among friends? Come
exactly,
on.
exactly. It's all good, all good.
Mhm. Well, and again, um, the most important part of any story is the people in it.
Yes.
So, zombie stories, the zombies are a detail.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really the point of the story. If it's a good story,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a good story, the point of the story are the people
Yes.
and how they respond to the zombie.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
ultimately, it's a story about people.
Yes, absolutely. And how the mind
Mm-hmm.
responds to that panicking and that
Mm-hmm.
danger. So which now I'm thinking, which do you think is the best movie about zombies ever made?
Um, well, you can't not give a nod to Night of the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to give that props
Yeah.
because prior to that, it was all voodoo zombies and Bela Lugosi and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So that was I don't know what the right word would be, but that was the gateway
Yes.
to all other zombie fiction. Um, but I have a warped sense of humor. So for me, movies like Shaun of the Dead
Yes.
or Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse,
Mm-hmm.
Zombie Land. Those are the kind
Zombieland.
of movies I
It's so
like.
fun, Zombieland.
It is. It's
It
fun.
is.
Exactly. And there's an old saying: it's the toughest part of being in a zombie apocalypse
Yes.
is acting like you're not enjoying yourself.
Yeah. Yes,
Just
exactly.
you gotta kind of wonder about that, but it's not far wrong.
And how do you think you have the all this experience writing?
Mhm.
How do you think you have evolved as a writer from the beginning from now? What things have you
Um,
learned?
I've learned well. In the first place, it took me years to find my voice.
Okay.
Because every writer who has any success whatsoever has
Mm-hmm.
their own particular voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stephen King sounds like Stephen King.
Yes,
Kurt
he
Vonnegut
does.
sounds like Kurt Vonnegut. Doesn't sound like anybody else.
Yes.
So I mean, I went through a lot of years of
Mm-hmm.
okay. This month I'm Stephen King. This month I'm Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah.
This month I'm Dean Koontz. And it's BS. It's
Yeah.
not it's not coming from a place
Yeah.
of truth.
Yes.
So it took a long time to find my own voice. I think I finally found it now.
Yes.
But
And mhm.
that was probably the thing that took the longest to
And
learn.
where
The
do you
rest of it's
think?
kind of technical
Yeah.
detail.
And when do you think that happened? Is there a point where you think, now this is mine? Do you remember that moment?
Honestly, I stopped. I think it was when I stopped caring about whether or not I got published.
Ah, okay. That pressure.
Yeah, I just said, oh, screw it. I'm gonna have fun with this, and I did, and there
Mm,
it was.
exactly.
But
If
I mean,
mhm.
we all have weird stuff going on inside our head,
Absolutely.
and writers more than most.
Yes.
So we have to get beyond that weird stuff
Hmm.
in order to go to whatever this other place is we go when we write.
Yeah.
Because we're not really. I mean, when I'm in full writer mode,
Hmm.
the world could blow up around me. I wouldn't even notice.
Yeah. Okay. So
So
if you have fun, the readers have fun.
but yeah, if you don't, they don't.
Exactly. And what what would be your advice for a new author?
Well, there's plenty of it. As a matter of fact, myself and D. Cooper just started a splinter group
Hmm.
called Writers on Writing.
Hmm.
WOW, Writers on Writing. Um, that it's what it does is uh, people like she and I and some others who've been doing this for
Yes.
a while,
Hmm.
helping out people who are just starting out.
Okay.
So there's all sorts of advice. The thing is, nobody can really teach you how to write.
Hmm.
The only way to learn how to write is by writing
Yeah.
all the time. Because, I mean, what works for me won't necessarily work for you,
Hmm.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
But there are some tricks to the trade you can learn.
Hmm.
And the best advice I've ever been given came from a literary agent I met years ago at a writers' conference. It
Hmm.
was like
Okay.
20 years ago, who told me to write the story as if I'm watching it in a movie.
Okay. Very visual.
Well, it's show don't tell,
Hmm.
but it's also pacing, and it's not you start at A and just slowly plod along until the story's done.
Yeah.
It's it's done in pieces
Hmm.
so that this piece fits with this one, which fits with this one, which fits with this one.
Yes.
That's how a movie is made. That's how you tell a story.
Hmm.
So writing a story that way seems to make the most sense to me anyway. Again,
Hmm.
it may not work for somebody else, but that's what works for me.
Yes. Well, I think that's a very good advice, because at the end, what we look for, it's, as you said, to entertain us.
Mm-hmm.
And the more visual, the more graphic images are on our mind, even more
Mm-hmm.
in horror, because maybe in other genres it's different, but into horror, we need
Yeah.
images and we need things that really impact
Mm-hmm.
your mind. I think that maybe for new authors, one thing that maybe it's a bit intimidating for them, it's the bad
Mm-hmm.
reviews, people not liking what they write, even more in horror, because we cross limits, it's all this, and
Yeah.
I think, what would you say to someone who's intimidated by that?
Um, well, the first thing is when you're writing the first draft,
Mm-hmm.
when you just sit down and you write the story,
Yes.
The only person you have to please is you.
Yeah.
You're the only one who has to enjoy that story while you're writing the first draft.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start sending it out to get it edited, to kind of tweak it or send it out to a critique or something like that,
Yes.
um, you the trick is finding somebody who respects you enough to tell you the truth,
Yeah.
but likes you enough not to be a dick about it. That's
Yeah.
that's put simply, that's it.
Yes.
That's it. Because there's a lot of people out there who will shred
Yeah.
but what people write, regardless. It doesn't matter.
Mm.
It's they don't care about the person who wrote it. They don't care about the amount of
Yeah.
time it took to
Yeah.
write it. They don't care about giving constructive criticism. They're
Mm-hmm.
just there to rip.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there like that. Just look at Facebook.
Yeah, I think those are everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
literally everywhere and any
Everywhere.
field. Yes. I mean, but those really are not the kind of audience you're interested into,
Nah,
because even,
nah.
I mean, I read lots of books and a lot of people send me books and movies and some demo games and all of that. And even when I don't like something, I can see what good things it has. I mean, like when someone gives a 1-star review on Amazon because it's not for me, well, okay, maybe it's not for you because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of sub genres and all of that, but you can see what good things it has on it, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see the effort and you can see all the work behind the scenes. So
Right. And well,
uh,
once you've been doing this for a while, you get a sense of what works and what doesn't
yeah.
in storytelling.
Hmm.
So you can read something that isn't necessarily for you and still see whether or not the different elements work.
Exactly.
Does this
Exactly.
work as a story? If it doesn't work as a story, then the writer's got a hell of a lot of work to do. But if
Mm-hmm.
it does, even if
Yes.
you're not particularly interested in that story, then you
Yes.
key on those things that you know work.
Hmm. Exactly. And now I was wondering, if one reader just knew you listening to us and
Mhm.
they want to start reading your books, where should they start?
Well, if you like zombies, start with "You're Never Ready for a Zombie Apocalypse."
Mm-hmm.
That's the first book in the Guardians of the Apocalypse series.
Okay.
Start with that.
It
That's
sounds
probably
like fun.
yeah.
And where can readers find you?
You can find me on Amazon. Make sure to spell my last name right. There's no P in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm on Twitter at JS Thomson 2021.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, I am. I run the uh, Asylum of Fear Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm usually active in a number of the different zombie groups, reading zombie and reanimated writers, etc., etc.
Okay. So you're
Um,
so active on platforms.
yeah. Um, I do every 2 weeks. I do a podcast called The Padded Room,
Mm-hmm.
and that's on YouTube
Okay.
under podcast in search of a rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put out my very first website,
Yes.
which is haunted library dot
Mm-hmm. Okay.
mailchimpsites.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. We will link everything below, everything. So it's so nice to talk to
You
you,
too.
but time
You too.
flew.
Yeah, it did.
We need to make another one. This is so interesting. I have a lot of questions for you.
Cool. Anytime.
Okay, then thank you so much. Do you have a message for your readers?
Keep reading. Keep reading. Keep supporting independent publishing.
Yes, please. Absolutely. Absolutely. Then thank you so, so much, Jeff, for your
Thank
time,
you.
for being here. We'll link everything below.
Cool.
And I'm so happy to talk to you tonight.
You too.
Okay. Have a lovely day.
Yep. See you, folks.
Okay. Bye-bye.